my personal opinion here is some of the frustration from last year has bled over to being a little bit too unfair with this year's team. Hello and welcome into another edition of 3Ma. John Kurtz, Derek Young, Cole Manbeck, all with you today to talk some more K-State football, some preseason polls, because there may not have been an official media poll in the Big 12, but there was an unofficial one, and there was an unofficial coaches poll taken as well. Plus, the betting markets now are starting to turn, and they're turning on K-State a little bit. So we'll break it all down. Welcome in. The show brought to you, as always, by our friends at Holiday Distillery. Get your Ben Holiday bottled in bond bourbon. Or your 360 vodka to hang out in the sunshine, wherever it is that you're going to be, out at the lake, on your porch. Hopefully not on your porch last night. I got woken up in the middle of the night by some crazy storms here in Kansas City. So, but
still storming here too.
Maybe you just that's a very Kansas thing. I feel like, just to get out on your porch while there's a storm with some Ben Holiday bottled in bond bourbon. So maybe that's actually the perfect way to do it. But just make sure it's Ben Holiday. Thank you to our friends at Holiday Distillery for their support as always. Yeah. Well, we'll rain on the K-State parade a little bit later on in the show, just to carry that out a little bit with what's happening in the betting markets and a question from the always positive Discord. But let's start with this. I think we may have briefly mentioned this on the show the other day, but coming out of first go in Big 12 Media Days, a couple of things. I'm going to start with the Brett McMurphy coaches poll here, because to me this is more significant. No offense to all of us media folks, including myself, who voted in that unofficial media poll. But the coaches picked K-State and Iowa State to go to the Big 12 championship game. What do we think is the let me contrast it like this, DY. What do you think is the difference between the betting markets that now really like Utah and the coaches who seem to like K-State and Iowa State? Media was not nearly as high on Iowa State. Like, what's with the discrepancy here, and do we put more stock into into what the coaches are predicting?
Can I put out like two quick takeaways from the coaches poll at first? One is, I think it's hilarious that we didn't get a poll this year, official preseason Big 12 poll this year, because the coaches didn't want one, and then they agreed to do one of their own. I think that's
I don't know if it was the coaches. That seemed to me like a Brett Yormark at the top. Like they're the ones that are concerned about how the narratives went last year. Yeah, see, I don't know that was. I never heard it was a coaches thing. I thought that was.
I always heard that Yormark was carrying it out because of what the coaches felt happened, and Kleiman even said it on the podium that he thought Arizona State got harmed by it last year.
Why does nobody? Here's mine. Why does nobody say that BYU got harmed? I just think that's so much more of an effective message to push there.
Probably because they didn't make it to Arlington. I guess that's.
I guess, but it was so easy for everybody to just be like, the Tom Fernellis of the world to just, I think, be kind of willfully ignorant and saying, well, Arizona State still made the playoff and got a bye. What the hell are you talking about? Well, they were behind Boise the entire time, and with 3 weeks left in the regular season, we were having to have a discussion about whether or not Tulane or Army was going to jump the Big 12 champion for a playoff spot, period. Like, clearly Arizona State was harmed, but BYU's an easier sell because you say they didn't even get at-large consideration, and they should have.
Yeah, especially since they beat SMU. No, I'm kind of with you on that. I just thought it was funny that they're like, well, having a preseason poll was harmful to our teams last year, so we're not going to have one. And then they gave an unofficial one to Brett McMurphy anyways. So it's kind of hilarious to me. And then, and I think I mentioned this either on our last show or on a Patreon, but Iowa State, I think they got 7 votes from 7 Big 12 coaches had Iowa State in the Big 12 championship game. All 7 had Iowa State losing that Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, let me DY, before you get into it, let me go ahead and just give the full breakdown, because this time I have the entire thing up in front of me. And before I do that, actually, Cole, I've got to say one more person that is on my shit list for all of this, and for the lack of a media poll and all that went down. Bill Connolly. Did you see Bill Connolly in his write-up of the Big 12, which was very, his S&P Plus model really likes K-State. But he was another one who took a pot shot at calling it silly or stupid or something like that they're not having a media poll. I don't. So many smart people I've heard just completely brush that off, like it doesn't matter, and it seems so obvious that it did if you're paying a lick's worth of attention. But this Bill, it's the same Bill Connolly that compared Lance Leipold favorably to Bill Snyder, said he was off to as good or better start than Bill Snyder. So
I mean, Cole loves to trumpet his stuff on our show, and he just continues to rake Kansas State in the Big 12 across the cools.
I mean, I was trying to have him on the show again, and now I didn't hear back, so we're probably safe to assume that's not going to occur. But look, I mean,
well, listen, I respect his model, I respect his work, but I don't. I mean, I would love to debate him on both of those points. I tried to debate him on the Bill Snyder thing. That didn't go very well. Now, maybe I was a little combative when that happened a couple years ago. But
well, I mean, we're gonna talk about it on this show. But I mean, his SP Plus has K-State ranked 18th in the country and tops in the Big 12. The numbers that he has love K-State. Now, I did also see him tweet out his own personal poll where he put K-State like third or fourth, like shortly after. So he's disagreeing with his SP Plus in terms of.
I think it's like, I get it, but it's funny to me when guys have their own models that they've created, and then like a couple of days later, be like, well, I don't really think my model is accurate.
wait, what is that? Stand by your model, Bill.
Well, I think
I know, Cole. I do not respect that. That I do not respect. Stand by your model. You created the thing.
Yeah, you're basically saying your model's not relevant.
Come on, man.
So here's what he tweeted 6 days ago. After doing all the write-ups, I think I'd rank the Big 12 like this: Arizona State, then Utah, then K-State, and Baylor.
For the books odds makers that you guys are talking about, now I use DraftKings, so it must be different than you guys, because DraftKings still has Kansas State and Arizona State as two favorites, co-favorites, and Utah third.
Yeah, DraftKings is the right one to use, DY. I accidentally clicked on another one yesterday, but DraftKings is the right one to use. So Connolly has K-State tops in the Big 12 at 18th, and the SP Plus, Arizona State 22nd, Texas Tech 26th, BYU 27th nationally, TCU 29th, Utah 31st, and then Iowa State 32nd, Baylor 35th, and then a big gap jumping down to KU at 50th. So his model really likes K-State. In fact, guys, I'll just give you the numbers right now. K-State has a 17.1% chance to win the league title, according to Connolly. Arizona State is second highest at only 10.1%, which is a pretty big margin. I mean, 7+% to the next closest team in odds to win the league. Then you have BYU and Texas Tech tied for third highest odds at 9.7%, Utah at 9%, Iowa State at 8.5%, TCU at 8.4%, Baylor at 6%. Has K-State projected to have a 15% chance at 11 plus wins. No other team has a higher than 7.2% chance in the league at 11 wins or more. BYU is at 7.2%. His model projects K-State at 6.3 Big 12 wins. The next closest is Arizona State and BYU at 5.7, followed by Texas Tech at 5.6, Iowa State at 5.5, and then Utah and TCU at 5.3, Baylor at 4.9.
Does the BYU thing just, one, they must have a really nice schedule. Two, did that not really equate Retzloff not being close?
I should have noted that. He noted in the write-up that he did that the Retzloff stuff and the impact of that being felt isn't really factored into the numbers, which I understand. So. And
I think we had this discussion on a Patreon that will come out in the future, Cole, but like Connolly's SP Plus also loves Kansas State's special teams, which kind of calls into question the model a little bit as well.
Has K-State 26th nationally in special teams.
And 21st was last year, right? Somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, I do, like I said, I do respect his model. And by the way, it's DraftKings' main competitor that has Utah now as the betting favorite there. So if that tells you anything about which place you should trust. But that's where Utah has moved up. I thought I saw maybe an offshore has also put Utah up at the top, or another less prominent book, but there's been some movement on that lately.
The DraftKings one has Kansas State and Arizona State as co-favorites. Utah very, very close behind at third. Tech very, very close behind at fourth. Baylor very, very close behind at fifth. And TCU very, very close behind at sixth.
I was listening, guys, just speaking of the Utah hype, which I feel like is getting out over the skis. Like it feels like it's like last year felt justified, but then they failed so much. And now everybody's jumping on Utah all of a sudden heading into the season as we get closer. I was listening to Pete Thamel and Dan Wetzel podcast on ESPN, which are the two guys I really like. And they were previewing the Big 12. And I was listening to this on Friday. And the team that they both liked to win the Big 12 was Utah. Like that's who they picked. And they spent time talking. They didn't spend a ton of time talking about K-State. Actually, they talked up Arizona State, obviously some. And then one of them gave a dark horse of Cincinnati. And that one.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
That's a strange one.
Yeah.
There's a better chance. Who did I hear bring up Fickle to Cincinnati the other day? I think there's a better chance that Luke Fickle is coaching at Cincinnati next year than there is Cincinnati's playing in the Big 12 championship game.
Have you guys, either of you, played the new video game College Football 26 yet?
Yes.
No.
Okay. When you do the Dynasty, sorry to our producer here, almost every time you do the Dynasty like that, right after the first season, Lance Leipold goes to Wisconsin.
Fickle's it sure feels like Fickle's getting fired. Satterfield, I do think there's like some buyout issues there. So there are some buyout issues that may prevent that from happening, but I still feel like that's everybody in the Big 12 is doing it now, right? Like everybody's going back home.
And Matt Campbell goes to like Kentucky or Nebraska every time.
Hey, guys, well, I got the Connolly numbers here. Let's just knock these out real quick, and I'll give you guys a little bit more data on that before.
No, didn't we just do Connolly numbers?
Well, I've got more. I mean, John, where would you say that you think K-State would be in terms of returning production? Like, do you think they'd be top 25 nationally this year as you think about the loss of DJ Giddens and the corners that K-State's got?
How does he calculate? Does he just do it by snaps?
Yeah, he looks at starts.
He clearly doesn't do it by actual like production.
No, I think he looks at numbers too. He looks at the stats.
If he did, then how's Arizona State like top 5?
Arizona State's number 2 nationally in returning production.
Yeah, and Cam's Academy was like 80% of their offense.
They do return 221 starts, which is
right. So he's looking at starts and snaps, I think, more than actual. Like,
I do know though that he factors in statistical stuff as well. So.
Scadaboo was 40% of the offensive production, but they do. I mean, Mateer's back, that tight end that's really good. Jordan Tyson is back. Levitt obviously is back.
I love playing with them on College Football 26. Everybody's back, but Cam's Cap, it was just a large part of it.
Well, I'll just tell you, K-State returns.
Wait. Oh, let me guess. It sounded like, damn it. I feel like you were starting to say 16th. Were you saying 16th?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. I would have said like 30 to 40 range.
I would say top 25.
14th in the country.
Yeah.
So they returned 67% of their total production overall. K-State ranks 4th in the Big 12, 14th in the country. Offense returns 71%. Defense returns 63%. 147 starts returning, as well as 35 starts coming in from transfers. So one of the new things that Connolly's doing that's interesting is he also is listing starts returning, but also starts that are transferring in. Iowa State, number 10, since they're the first game on the season, I'll just tell you, number 10 in the country and returning, or number 10 in the Big 12 and returning production, 41st nationally, 61% overall, 175 starts returning, guys, only 13 starts transferring into the program. So, if you look at it, from a numbers standpoint and everything, K-State, in summary, I have it noted down in here that kind of breaks down where they stand. I don't know if K-State tied for 3rd in the conference in returning offensive production, tied for 4th in returning defensive production, number 6 in total starts returning overall, number 13 in the league. And as far as starts transferring in at 35, only Iowa State, BYU, and TCU have less starts transferring in to the program. So thought that was interesting. UCF has the least returning production in the Big 12, Oklahoma State 15th. Yeah.
UCF has like 70 transfers coming in or something wild like that.
Yeah.
Both them in West Virginia.
Yeah. K-State plays the number 12, 13, 15, and 16 teams as far as least returning production in the league.
Well, I'll take that. I guess maybe if you want to look at it like that should help you feel a little bit better about week 0. If Iowa State has less returning talent, they typically, they tend to start slowly. That's kind of been a Matt Campbell trend.
The four bottom teams in the Big 12, according to Big 12 championship odds at DraftKings. The two worst are UCF and Oklahoma State, both on the Kansas State schedule. The next worst after that is West Virginia on the Kansas State schedule, right? No,
they don't play West Virginia.
They're not.
But Arizona's the next worst after that. So you do play three of the four worst teams in the Big 12. You only get credit for two of them. But
yeah, well, keep in mind K-State number 1 in the SP Plus in the Big 12. They play the number 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, and 15th ranked teams in the SP Plus, along with Arizona and the non-con, which is number 14 in the SP Plus in the Big 12. So you play 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you got all those bunched together. You avoid Arizona State, but you've got Baylor, you got Texas Tech. You've got some of those tough road games, especially that will be challenging with Utah as well. So and John, you mentioned Matt Campbell in the months of August and September in his career since he's been at Iowa State dating back to 2016, 18-17. Chris Kleiman, 17-6 during that same stretch. And Matt Campbell's lost at least 2 games in 6 of the 8 seasons in August and September. Chris Kleiman has never lost more than 1. Now, frustrating points where you think you're going to get out of September undefeated.
Some of those ones, man. Some of those ones.
No, there's no doubt they hurt. Some of the ones are incredibly frustrating. The painful one at Missouri, the Tulane one in Manhattan,
Arkansas State.
Yeah. Well, I didn't count that. That's COVID. So
right, I forgot your official record book does not count that.
No, Kleiman was 1-1 in September that year because he went to OU and won right after that. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've got a theory on the Utah K-State stuff here that I'll give you in just a moment when we come back.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
I'm BJ Kissel, founder and CEO of KC Sports Network. Emprise Bank has been with us from the beginning. They were our first network partner, and they believed in the vision of what we were building from the start. I can't speak to any other banks or companies and how they operate, but I can tell you from personal experience and based on the growth of the network you're listening to right now, that if you have banking needs, call our friends at Emprise Bank. We've worked with so many great people there over the years, from Vicky and Aggie to Andrea, Lori, Jackie, Deb, and Aaron, and not to mention so many others that not just supported KC Sports Network, but supported our KCSN Foundation as well. But the best thing that I know is that if I have a question or a problem, no matter how dumb the question is, I know who I'm going to call and who I'm going to talk to, and I know that I'm getting an answer from someone that I can trust, and I know that person is there to help us. That's why Emprise Bank has always been and continues to be our partner in Possible, and they can be yours too. You just have to reach out. If you have a banking need, whether it's business or personal, hit me up. I will connect you directly with the same people that have helped us build KCSN. And that's our friends at Emprise Bank.
Folks, there's nothing that beats relaxing on a hot summer day and watching some baseball. And there's no simpler way to get in on the action than by downloading the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. And the best part, Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on the fun. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6, and right now, new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Here's what you got to do. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Bonus picks expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
I think why you see the coaches go K-State, I guess that the unofficial media poll, which, by the way, here are the polls. We got way sidetracked. K-State got 8 total votes in the coaches poll, where they were just picking a champ and a runner-up. K-State got 8 total votes, 6 champion, 2 runner-up. Iowa State had 7. They were all runner-up. Arizona State had 6, 4 champion, 2 runner-up. Texas Tech got 5, 3 champion, 2 runner-up. TCU was 3 total votes, 2 champion, 1 runner-up. Baylor got 2, 1 of each. Utah got 1 vote for runner-up. So the coaches not nearly as high on what's going on at Utah there. Gambling Gaucho's unofficial media poll. K-State 1, Arizona State 2, Baylor 3, Tech 4, Iowa State 5, TCU 6, Utah all the way down at 7, BYU at 8. So there's a really wide discrepancy here between what's going on with Utah, especially. To me, K-State represents like a pretty safe pick. You know that Kleiman, outside of the COVID year, which we just said does not count here on this podcast. Chris Kleiman's won at least 8 games every single year at K-State, so you kind of know. And K-State will be in contention. They'll at least be close to the top. That's a pretty safe bet. Whereas a lot of these other teams, you know, they've had some pretty wild changes from year to year, or there are reasons to not trust it as much. The Utah thing, I really just feel like this is people looking at last year and saying, well, somebody from way down at the bottom of the standings won the league. And this is going to be a wild, crazy, zany conference. So the easy thing to do is look at the bottom of the standings last year and be like, oh, well, Utah's down there, and that's a program and a coach that I really like and trust. They've got a hot name transferring in at quarterback in Devin Dampier, so like let's go boost them up. And I'm almost saying this like a little tongue in cheek, like almost mockingly a little bit, when I was one of the first guys on this train, but now I'm just annoyed because everybody has taken it too far. You know, I mean, I was saying this 4 months ago, like, hey, watch out for Utah. They'll probably have a defense. They always do. And they've got a really good transfer quarterback coming in. But now I'm kind of looking at this like, guys, really, I feel like we're trying to maybe be a little bit too smart by saying that Utah is going to win the league and everybody is coming on board with that. Like, they still do have to keep a running quarterback healthy. Okay. Utah has not had a very good track record of that the last few years. They're integrating a new offensive coordinator along with this quarterback. Now, granted, he was the offensive coordinator for Dampier last year as well. But, man, that feels like a pretty big jump. Like, we are pretty far removed. It's been a while. It's been a while since Utah made a Rose Bowl, okay? It's not the same deal with Cam Rising. This is a quarterback that has struggled a little bit throwing the ball. He's much more geared toward being a dynamic rusher, and they've had a hard time keeping guys healthy. And what day? Is it November when K-State goes to Utah?
Yeah,
it's November, right?
like November 21st. Yeah.
November
So, yeah.
22nd.
So, talking about quarterback health, I'd rather play them late in the year than early in the year, to be honest, if I'm K-State. So I will just put it that way.
I was kind of on the Utah train a little bit too before it became, I guess, popular to do so. What I will say is I do like their Big 12 schedule. For one, they kind of dodge both Iowa State and TCU, so they only play like 4 of that, I guess, 7 teams that everyone thinks could win a Big 12 championship. And then the other 4, I mean, they get Texas Tech, Arizona State, and Kansas State, all 3 at home.
Yeah, K-State.
The only one they have to go to is Baylor, which we know Waco's not really like an elite home environment.
Yeah, K-State favored currently on DraftKings at -1.5 in the game at Utah, which obviously can shift as the timing of that game gets closer. But that is going to be, as you look ahead, not all the betting lines are out for K-State's games, obviously. But when you think about it and you look at the win probabilities and look at Kelly Ford's metrics, that's probably going to be the tightest betting line of any game that K-State plays as we look into the season, which can change as the season evolves. Yeah. Sure. Baylor will be close. I think that was second in the least win probability as far as K-State. Remember, Kelly Ford's win probability at K-State at 50+% in all 12 games. Now, again, that didn't say that K-State was going to go 12-0. The odds tell you they would go 9-3 in that scenario, but that still had them. It's a top team in the Big 12 as well. And so the analytics and the models, we talked about it repeatedly on this show, and this has been a trend for the last few years. They love Kansas State for whatever reason. I think it's probably the consistency factor of winning 8 to 9 games at a minimum, that you don't have like that terrible season mixed in with 4 wins like a lot of the other teams that have made runs, even like Utah last year, not even making a bowl. So anyways, I wanted to bring this up to you guys. John, if we're done with the Utah discussion now and pivot back here to K-State.
Yes.
This was from B Stu on our Discord, which I thought was an interesting question and perspective, and so I wanted to bring it to you guys. I need someone who thinks we will be good at football this season to explain to me how you came to that conclusion with the glaring issues at the O-line, corner, D-line, linebacker, and specialists. The argument last year before the season from guys like DY and other media personalities, including us too, all of us, was that it was going to be a tough season with so many new starters and unproven guys, but next year is the year. We now have even more unproven guys this year, but now we're touting a Big 12 championship or bust. Thoughts?
Well, let's establish some baselines here, because so this is where, and patreon.com/3ma if you want to sign up for the Discord, and you may see your question used on a show. But I've seen a lot of the discussion here. B Stu is one of the guys who is more negative about the season. We need to establish what is good at football here, because in the Discord, and I realize it's the online community, everybody's kind of snarky and whatever, but so much of the conversation gets pushed toward just kind of taking pot shots, make it so I don't even know where the baseline is, what the barometer is for saying we'll be good at football. I mean, we just outlined, outside of COVID, Kleiman's won 8 games every single year. That's really looked at as kind of a demeaning thing in the Discord to talk about 8 wins being something good. So we've got to establish what that is. I assume that B Stu thinks, that this is going to be 9 wins plus 10 wins, maybe something like that.
Yeah,
as good. Let's take and I realize there's shtick going on in the Discord. We basically need to remove the shtick here to actually have this conversation.
In the climate quote of how tough it is to win 8 games.
Look, I was frustrated last year. You guys know this. I was frustrated with the commentary about hard to win games and going 8-4 last year and 8-4 the year prior in the regular season. So I do think. I recognize that it's, something to take credit for being able to win at least 8 games every year and not having those disastrous seasons. But the ceiling, this year needs to be a 9+ win regular season. So I think that has to be the threshold. And we're talking about being really good, that we're talking 9-3 or better.
I have a little bit of different perspective here, or a different outlook. I don't. They should have won 9 games last year because the Houston game was ridiculous. I think we can all say that.
Well, but then DY, they could say that they should have lost to KU, Colorado.
Right now, but what I was going to say is, yes, they should have won at least 9 games last year because of the Houston game. But I almost think that Kansas State only winning 8 in 2023 was worse than winning 8 in 2024, because that was a roster that you weren't completely turning over a ton. And your best players weren't a lot of new players, which is kind of what this question kind of gets down to. Last year, a lot of your players that you were going to count on to be stars were guys that had never done it before, especially at some of the most important positions. Even defensive tackle, it was first year that Damian Leo was a full-time starter. He was not a starter before last year. At linebacker, it was the first year that Austin Romaine was a first-time starter. At quarterback, Avery Johnson, it was the first full starting season for Jace Brown. It was the first full starting season for any of those tight ends, and none of them stayed healthy, and they were all pretty good. There was a few offensive linemen as well. So, and then I go to this year to answer that guy's question, is I don't see a lot of first-time starters or first-time important players that will be put in a situation that they've never been put in before. It will be the first full, really, season for Joe Jackson, a running back, but Dylan Edwards has played over, 150, 200 snaps each of the last 2 seasons. Avery Johnson just played a bunch. Jace Brown just played a bunch. Those tight ends all did well last year. The offensive line,
Tibbs and Bradley are experienced.
Tibbs and Bradley are older, experienced guys, even if they haven't done it at Kansas State. The offensive line, J.B. Nelson's coming over at Penn State, where he's played a lot at Penn State. George Fitzpatrick hasn't played a lot, but they think he's the best offensive lineman on the team.
Well, this is where I'll play devil's advocate here. B Stu, I can hear you yelling at your radio, so to speak here. what if it's Chris Kleiman overhyping a guy? We're gonna
It could
just
be, but then
Chris
everybody's
Kleiman.
overhyping it. It's not Chris Kleiman. It's everybody. So I kind of push back on so they're like, "Oh, here's the coach's propaganda anymore." Do you hear what the players say too? Sometimes it's just what happens on a practice field doesn't always get out onto the football field, or it takes a year or two to do it too. So I always push back on that as well. But Taylor Portier has played a lot of football. Andrew Lightning's he hasn't started, but he's got over 400 career snaps. That's quite a bit for a guy that's never started. So Sam Hecht was second team All Big 12 last year. Might be the best center in the Big 12. In my opinion.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Well, what were the position? I was going to ask Cole for the position groups.
Offensive line, so I just said that. Defensive line, though. I mean, Cody Stuffelbein started 13 games last year. And if you're talking about guys that have done before, I don't think he's going to start this year.
Well, that's. I think the Discord takes some issue with.
Well, yeah, but that to his question was not a lot of starts come back, right? Not a lot of playing time comes back. Well,
question marks.
Cody Stuffelbein started 13 games. There's a lot of ammunition to push back on that question. And if Cody Stuffelbein played 13 games, it defeats the premise of that question. And if they're so good that he's not going to start this year, didn't that defeat the premise of the question too? Since he pointed out the defensive line.
I mean, I don't think D-line and linebacker, and I told Beastie this, I don't really think they're question marks this season.
I don't think they are either. In the secondary is a question mark. I pointed that out, but that's the only real one that I can see.
It's fair to call O-line. You can call O-line a question mark. You got a new offensive line coach. You're replacing 2 starting tackles. I think it's fair.
I don't necessarily.
O-line and corner, I am fine with. I think there's a lot of talent at both spots, and I think there's a pretty good mix of talent and experience, particularly at offensive line.
Yeah,
but new O-line coach is that's a wrinkle in there. Linebacker, I don't get at all. I know it's.
I get offensive line. It's just like I think that's one where you can figure it out because you have 4 guys that have started games before that will start for you, or 3, and then you have Fitzpatrick, who seems to have really run with it. Secondary, I totally agree. So I'm with them on there because you are replacing 4 new starters, and it's going to be guys that have not played really FBS football yet, or one that's coming off a pretty bad injury. So I totally get the secondary. At the same time, would you have felt good if you brought back the same exact secondary? I wouldn't.
There's a lot of complaining about the secondary last year. Yeah.
I feel good about I understand the O-line concern. I actually think the O-line could be better than last year, which probably sounds crazy to people because they rushed for a school record 6.08 yards per carry and shattered the mark from the previous teams and program history. But I think overall, like George Fitzpatrick could be better than Easton Kilty.
I think there's a world where he probably is. And I think Taylor Portier is probably going to be better than the Taylor Portier last year, or is the same, whatever.
Another year removed from the knee injuries. I think
it's Sam Hecht. I think it's Sam Hecht, one of the best offensive linemen in the Big 12, but apparently I'm on an island with that.
Well, and let's be honest. So this is where what I had replied with is, I think Portier another year from his knee injury, Sam Hecht another year of experience, projected by some to be an all Big 12 type center. And then at right tackle, Carver Willis was a disaster last year. There's a reason he's gone. Like now he got picked up. He was somewhat coveted in the portal, but he was awful. And so you're not asking to be better than what Carver Willis was last year isn't asking for a whole heck of a lot. And John Pastore, if he's healthy,
Pastore, but especially if it's like JB Nelson.
Yeah. So you're talking JB Nelson brought in.
Dude, I feel like people we forget about JB Nelson. JB Nelson,
people know how good he is. Yeah.
JB Nelson played a lot at Penn State, and Penn State might have the best offensive line in the country. And they're talking about him being an NFL guy. They hated to lose it.
They did want to lose him. Yeah.
And this is the same crowd that gets real negative on Kleiman will say that he doesn't recruit well enough and small time and all this. Guys, they got offensive linemen from USC, Ohio State, and Penn State. And the dude from Penn State played a lot, and George Fitzpatrick is drawing rave reviews early on here. I don't know what you want. I feel like there's a moving target sometimes with Kleiman on some of this stuff.
And they spent a lot for those 3 guys and Jerron Tibbs.
Yeah. So, and then D-line guys, I think you lose Brendan Mott. I get it. He led your team in sacks. He was your best D lineman last year.
He was the defensive lineman of the year in the conference. I get it.
Yeah, but overall, I feel like they're deeper at D-line. Like
Yeah.
Uso Seumalo is getting more rave reviews as he heads into his 4th year of FBS football than he ever has.
It was for sure not banged up in the offseason.
Yeah. And then you got Eli Leo, obviously. So you actually have like a position of concern and consternation in the past has been D tackle, right? Like you feel like you have a pretty solid 1-2 punch at defensive tackle. Malcolm Alcorn Crowder has actually, at least had a little bit more buzz on the D line. Chidi Obi-Izor could be a 3-tech in your D line, as you might play a little bit more 4-down front, which is why I think there's less consternation on linebacker. You brought in Gabe Powers, obviously at linebacker too, but Toby Osunsanmi, you got Cody Stufflebean as a serviceable guy, but Ryan Davis getting all the love and the hype that he is. He brought in Jayshon Ross, a former top 100 recruit, 1 year removed from being that as he went to Alabama. We'll see what he can do and if he can get on the field as well. Like they have some talent on the defensive line. So
I would say this too, Cole. They've done a pretty good job of developing guys to turn into like that dude on the defensive line, because at this time last year, I mean, we were happy that Brendan Mott was coming back, but nobody was sitting here saying like that's a Big 12 defensive lineman of the year and he's going to have that kind of an impact.
Exactly.
Like they find ways to do that, and that's why I feel like the Ryan Davis thing, you might want to trust that a little bit more, because look, we all know the story about Felix when he came in and what he turned into, and then they turned Brendan Mott, scrawny walk-on, into Big 12 defensive lineman of the year, and now you've got a guy in Ryan Davis who was not the sexiest name coming in, but he seems to be kind of on that track. So I would respect that a little bit. Having said that, like I understand the defensive line question mark a little bit more honestly than I even do linebacker. That's the one I just really don't get. I feel like they're pretty damn good at linebacker, again with an Ohio State transfer that they supplemented in, which seemed to be pretty good. Plus Austin Romaine, who's like the most loved up linebacker nationally in the country. And I know we're all, I know Discord narratives. The Discord thinks that that's gotten way out of control, but he clearly is pretty good. And then Des Purnell, I think, is very solid. And then they have other bodies, right, that they went to the portal to get to throw some athleticism at it. I feel like, what more do you want them to do? I don't get that one.
I don't think the Romaine stuff's out of control at all, personally. And he was pretty good for a little bit as a true freshman until he wore down as well, and had to be thrusted into action there. I think there's some errors in the way that's being approached. If you're not believing the hype there, just turn on the film last year. He was probably the best linebacker in the Big 12 last year, to be quite honest. Defensive line, some of the things you said, I mean, I totally agree in terms of the development thing. Like Felix Uzama was 24 hours away from going to, I think, become good at journalism school at Missouri before he became a first-round pick and 2-time Big 12 Defensive Lineman of the Year. Brendan Mott was a walk-on that they turned into a Big 12 Defensive Lineman of the Year. As John said, we were all like, yeah, Brendan Mott's coming back. Quite frankly, we didn't appreciate how much that was going to help at the time when we were doing that, because yeah, he was Big 12 Defensive Lineman of the Year, but I remember coming on here several times during last season saying, well, on Saturday's game, Brendan Mott was unblockable, and he was. So to not have a little trust and faith and confidence in the defensive line, I think, is a fool's errand, especially when they're going to be probably their best on the interior of the defensive line that they've been in a while, at least since they had Eli Huggins. So no problems there. I waved the red flag a little bit on the secondary all off season. With that being said, like I said, I'm glad that they did change who's back there, because it was not good last year. So yeah, they're breaking in 4 new starters, but they probably needed to, considering what happened. Now, obviously, you'd rather have Jacob Parrish and Marquis Siegel, NFL guys, but boy, in the secondary is one of those positions where you're just as bad as your weakest link, and the weakest links were really, really bad. And then obviously we go to special teams, but to answer that guy's question, I don't have the same concerns or takes in terms of like returning production or experience. We just talked about Kansas State being top 12, top 15 in returning production according to some of the metrics, and really at important spots too. So I don't share that. I share that in the secondary, but that's about it.
Yeah, I think I appreciate the question. It turns into a great discussion, and it's great to I'm not against like trying to defend anything. And by the way, I don't have K-State going 11-1. I've got K-State going 9-3. So I feel like, yes, are there some who take this perhaps a little bit too far? I guess you would throw the Big 12 coaches, the Big 12 head coaches under that label right now. I mean,
I think it has to be Arlington or bust.
That's maybe some of why the question is being asked right now, because you're seeing K-State topping a lot of these polls and some of the betting markets, et cetera. So totally understand the question, but my personal opinion here is some of the frustration from last year has bled over to being a little bit too unfair with this year's team. Well, there are certainly some who go too far on the other side, and I find myself squarely in between because I've been very firm in saying I feel like it's a 9-3 type of season for K-State. So I got to run. Are we wrapping the show? Do you guys have anything else, Cole? Do you want to add more to that discussion on the other side of a break? What do you think?
We can add a little bit more. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Well.
All right.
I should have just ended it, but we'll go on a few more minutes here for the folks.
You made a promise. Fulfill the promise. Patreon.com/streamot. Okay. DY and Cole will be back in just a moment.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
Man, I put myself in a pickle here. I should have just let John end it right there so that I didn't have to do any hosting. DY, what else should we talk about based off the discussion that we just had? I think we covered the specific question pretty well.
Yeah, I think we would all just disagree on him on some of the positions and thinking that they don't have much back. I mean, technically, I think they have quite a bit back in offensive line, just because it's kind of a product of all the rotations they've done in the past, right? They always end up with like 3 or 4 guys that have actually still played a lot of college football, and so they kind of benefit from that a little bit. And like I said, I think everyone underrates Sam Hecht. Apparently, the Discord underrates Austin Romaine. 2 things that kind of blow my mind, and quite frankly, I don't understand at all. Defensive line. What I would say is I understand is like not a lot of the defensive ends have actually done it yet. So I do understand that. They have played a lot of college football, but not a lot of them have reached peak performance level yet. You're still waiting for essentially breakout years from Ryan Davis, from Tobi Osensami, from Chidi Obiizor. On the other hand, I would say you already got your breakout year from Damian Elot-Leo, so you're not totally there. Linebacker, you need to keep Desmond Purnell fresher. I think when his performance kind of trended downward towards the end of last season, it's probably him running out of gas. So you need some other guys there to step up and be able to take on a good amount of snaps early to prevent that from happening again. Because when Desmond Purnell's at his best, he's pretty good too, in my opinion. So whether that's getting Asa Newsom back, and hoping all things are well there, that could be the answer. And then you need your new starters to be good in the secondary. I don't disagree there. What would help a lot if Gunnar Maldonado returns to old form.
Yeah, I think when we talk about the D-line, DY, one thing we do need to see them improve at. So last year, 43rd in the country as a team and sack percentage of 7.2%. But I think a large part of that, they had to bring blitzers quite a bit last year. I mean, they blitzed pretty heavy. You think back to that Tulane game. I mean, they couldn't get home with the pass rush on the D-line, so they kept – and again, there was a 3-man front a lot of times, so that's part of it. It's hard to get a pass rush on a 3-man front. But they got to have a better win rate on the D-line to where you don't have to bring 5 or 6 frequently and expose your coverage more, especially as we talk about the inexperience in the secondary. The pass rush is going to be critical, and you don't want to have to be bringing 5 or 6 guys. You want to be able to have more guys back there dropping in coverage if you can and have a win rate up front, which is why guys like, Ryan Davis, Tobi Osensami, Jay Sean Ross, who's got the talent and the pedigree to be a tremendous pass rusher, if he can turn it on this year for Kansas State. Some of those guys, Chidi Obiizor, can he be that pass rushing specialist on the interior when they slide him over to the D tackle position? So, they got to be better at getting after the quarterback up front without bringing heavy pressure.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's secondary's best friend, especially one that's going to be pretty green the first few weeks of the season. And defining what is good football is honestly part of the equation as well, and it's a good question to ask. it's only been it's funny because it's only been 2 years in a row, but it's like people are getting bored with being 8-4, and being bored with 8-4 is understandable. I get it, but like I said, it's 3 seasons ago, you won the Big 12. Like, if you told, what if they go and win the Big 12 this year? If you told someone you're going to win 2 Big 12s in 4 years, you take that and run. So
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
I think people just need to have a little bit of patience for this year to see how it is unfold before you get all pissy about the 8-4 stuff, to be quite honest. Because if 8-4 is your floor, you take it and run. You do. Now you need to not hang out on the floor so long. I get it, but it's only been 2 years. 2 years is not a long time.
I think
But 23 was worse than 24 in my opinion in terms of being 8-4.
Look, we don't help things. Sometimes I, especially, overhype heading into the season, and talk about winning the Big 12. Each of the last 2 years, I don't remember where.
I think I still picked Kansas State to go to probably win 10 games last year. But to my defense, and I know you'll remember it, I was putting up the concerns of there's a lot of first year contributors on this team.
Yeah,
I mean, you have less of that this year.
You tried to restrain my hype of Avery Johnson and recognizing first year starting quarterback and that there would be some
still broke records.
Yeah. So look, I think a large part of it, obviously, the K-State hype and the love is contingent on Avery Johnson, obviously starting quarterback, taking a big step and maybe not even a big step. I mean, he was still fine last year.
It's funny because people, I think, just some of the hype got out of control, and not even with just you. There was people that put him in the Heisman Trophy discussion before the season even started, and he only started one game, and it was the bowl game the prior year. So if you're not basically playing at a Heisman level, people think you underachieved. Go back and look at the numbers. Ran for 600 yards, broke the school record for touchdown passes in a single season. He had an excellent first year. Go look at all the other quarterbacks, sans Sam Leavitt, and see what they did in their first year as a starter. None of them are as good as Avery Johnson.
Though they'll look. Well, wasn't technically last year Sam Leavitt's first year as a starter?
That's why I said Sam Leavitt was the only.
Oh, Sam Leavitt. Okay, I was like, because that was kind of the knock was like, look at Sam Leavitt, same class as Avery Johnson. Look what he's doing. Look, he's a hell of a player. And so, yeah, that Avery Johnson has to take a step. He has to minimize mistakes. And I think he will. Another year in the system. We talked about the Matt Wells relationship, him being stepping in as the offensive coordinator now, as well as being the quarterback's coach. So Avery will take a step. But having a returning starting quarterback now with the experience Avery has is significant. So when we talk about returning production, that's a key part of it. I think we also
returning quarterback is such a massive thing in college football. But I will be honest, we'll point out there's quite a few teams in that upper echelon at the Big 12 that what we expect. That do have that same thing. The TCU is Josh Hoover back. Iowa State is Rocco Beck back. Baylor has Sawyer Robertson back. Arizona State has Sam Leavitt back. Utah has a different quarterback. But out of those contenders, they're the only one.
Yeah, no, that's fair. You brought up running back. We talked about this on the Patreon show that we're going to release here in the near future as well.
To be honest, it's funny that that guy pointed out like offensive line, defensive line, when I feel like they have more coming back than the running back.
Well, I think running back, when you think about on the offensive side, when you think about returning production, like a large part of that returning production gone is DJ Giddens. Obviously.
Right. It's funny that people talk about being scared at other spots where running back is probably where they're the thinnest in terms of production returning.
So DJ Giddens, 223 carries in 2023, 205 carries last year in 2024, 1,200 plus yards each of the last 2 seasons. He's gone. Dylan Edwards had 74 carries last year. You're talking about him and Joe Jackson, who had maybe 40, 45 carries. I don't remember the exact number for him, but those two are going to have to see a significant uptick in carries. And what's the durability look like?
Well, Joe Jackson's already had multiple offseason surgeries in his career. Dylan Edwards missed a game last year because of injury. He had 2 others where he barely played because of injury.
Yeah. So what's the wear and tear look like on those guys as they take more hits this year at the end of the season, and the explosiveness of Dylan Edwards? So that is a question. You and I talked about it on the Patreon, COD, and we're going to have it on our over-under predictions here on KCSN in the near future when we do that show. but will K-State have a 1,000-yard rusher? And that's going to be a fun debate. And, you know,
I don't even know if to be honest, I think 90% of people now would say no.
Yeah, they probably will. It'll be a 3-headed, you know, 700, 900 yards.
Maybe 4.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're a little higher on Antonio Martin than I am in terms of the impact.
Because I think he's going to have to play.
I think he's going to have to play. I think
there's going to be no choice, because I think there's going to be games where Joe Jackson's not available. I think there's going to maybe be a game or two where Dylan Edwards is not available, or he's being used as a pass catching option out wide. He's an all-purpose back. He's not a typical running back. So there's going to be. It would not shock me if you want a bold prediction where Antonio Martin leads team in carries once or twice.
I think he's going to be a guy that gets 5-6 carries a game and comes in mostly when they need 2 yards.
I would be shocked if there's not a game where he has double-digit carries and leads a team.
That'll be
you're counting on Joe Jackson and Dylan Edwards to play every game if you're saying no.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that. I think that only happens if one of those guys is hurt and misses time.
Right, but that's going to happen.
Hey, would you stop putting that evil on it? Like, you know, we don't have to talk about injuries.
I know, but the odds, the probability, especially since they both have already had it.
Defensively, I thought this was interesting. Per Bill Connolly, DY, K-State's defense is ranked between 25th to 34th nationally in the SP Plus each of the last 4 seasons under Joe Klanderman. So, like, while we even think about last year and the frustrations of some of the pass air coverage issues, et cetera, they still rank top 35 in the country in the SP Plus defensively, which isn't, again, the end all be all. Like, I could look probably at the pass efficiency defense rankings, et cetera, and not look great. The explosive plays allowed have been a problem in the last couple of years. In the
not
secondary.
last year, though. I don't think.
Was it not last year?
Maybe I'm letting it. In 23, it definitely was what hurt them, and they aimed to correct that in 24. It might not have been great, but it wasn't as bad as 23. But their run defense was so good, it helped.
Yeah.
But you did have Houston popping off for that one that ultimately won the game. I think was about 30 plus. So BYU, you had a couple big ones, but I think those were like special teams and defense. So
yeah, I think the Tulane game still sticks out and hurts me so much, and seeing the open guys running around with the communication errors that sticks in my head. But you're probably right; they probably didn't allow this, and I'll pull the data on that before.
Well, in Arizona, both Cedro McMillan and Jordan Tyson had like 1 billion yards. So
yeah. Well, we can go ahead and wrap it at this point. We're going to have a ton more to talk about here on the show over the ensuing weeks. And we don't need to burn it all for this show, but you guys know the drill. I mean, we're going to have offensive preview pod, defensive preview pod, where we broke down both sides of the football in depth. We're going to have the over-under statistical predictions where everybody makes fun of me and I set numbers too high probably, and we'll go down on the record for what we project this season. We're going to have multiple shows that project the K-State football schedule, and we'll break down each game by quarters, so 3 games at a time on each show, and what we predict the outcome to be for each game, assess and kind of handicap each one of those games as we go through the season and give our final record predictions. It's going to be like 7 to 8 shows worth right there, and we've got multiple guests lined up on the show over the ensuing weeks. So again, I know I tell you all the time, subscribe to the show. Get on 3MAW, subscribe to YouTube on KCSN or on Apple, Spotify, wherever you enjoy the show. Leave us a review if you would. That helps us. We really appreciate it. So appreciate Nick Springer behind the scenes producing the show. Appreciate DY as always, and appreciate John. And thank you to all of you for listening to another episode of 3MAW.